Welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful in our unmentionables, of course. That's right. We've slipped into something more comfortable and hope you're doing the same, listener. Have a drink in hand. And my name is Amanda Kamada.
And my name is Blake Roberts, and I also have a drink in hand.
What are you imbibing on this evening?
This is a New York State Traminette.
Interesting.
It's a white wine for those listeners who don't know what Traminette is.
Yes, and I guess I'll give my hints. I don't think I got them in on time for the talk of shame, but my hints tonight are air, land, and sea. And with the sea in mind, I am drinking a White Claw because it has a little wave on front logo. And so I will be sipping on a mango version of a White Claw this evening.
Lovely.
Yes. And what, pray tell, are you wearing?
I just got out of the shower and a long weekend of travel. And I got home from the airport and went to work. And then I just, right before this, was like, I just need a shower. I need to feel fresh.
Yes.
So I'm wearing a robe.
Nice.
And some little, appropriate for your hint, they're little like turquoise briefs.
Lovely.
Feels very oceany.
Lovely. And I'm wearing a Guess swimsuit this evening, and you'll notice that, the Guess logo is a triangle, and there's a reason why I'm doing this is because tonight we are going to be discussing the Bermuda Triangle.
Nice. As soon as you said triangle, I was like, I know what this is now.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about a little bit about the Bermuda Triangle. There are so many stories that are involved with the Bermuda Triangle, so there is no way that we are going to be able to hit all of them tonight. So I encourage all listeners to go and do your own research about the different stories, but I'll cover a few incidents this evening that has happened in the Bermuda Triangle. So my sources are Wikipedia, Britannica.com, which I guess used to be known as Encyclopedia Britannica. Remember when we had encyclopedias?
They took up so much shelf space.
Oh, so much shelf space. And I have to think that once you got all of the volumes, that you had, surely the information changed, very quickly. So it seems like a wasted shelf space, but I used to love looking at encyclopedias when I was a kid. I was kind of a dork that way. That and my, what were they called? Childcraft books or something like that, where you learned about things like fairy tales and all that good stuff. And then my last source is oceanservice.noaa.gov. So let's talk about a little bit about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, fill me in.
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle is a section of the North Atlantic Ocean off North America, where more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes are said to have mysteriously disappeared. The area, whose boundaries are not universally agreed upon, has a triangular shape that reaches approximately from the Atlantic coast of Florida to Bermuda to the islands known as the Greater Antilles. Estimates of the Bermuda Triangle's total area range from between 500,000 and 1.5 million square miles. So that is a very large area that encompasses the Bermuda Triangle. And for decades, the Atlantic Ocean's fabled Bermuda Triangle has captured the human imagination with unexplained disappearances of ships, planes, and people. Some speculate that unknown and mysterious forces account for the unexplained disappearances, such as extraterrestrials capturing humans for study, the influence of the lost continent of Atlantis, vortices that suck objects into other dimensions, and other various ideas. And then there are also more boring scientific explanations. But one of them includes oceanic flatulence. Who knew that the ocean farted? Yeah, so oceanic flatulence means that methane gas erupts from ocean sediments and disruptions in geomagnetic lines of flux. So methane gas apparently can come up from out of the ocean, and they said that this may explain some of the disappearances. But there are more paranormal explanations that I'd like to get into. Triangle writers have used a number of supernatural concepts to explain the events. One explanation blames the leftover technology from the mythical lost continent of Atlantis. Sometimes connected to the Atlantis story is the submerged rock formation known as the Bimini Road off the island of Bimini in the Bahamas, which is in the triangle by some definitions. Followers of the purported psychic Edgar Cayce take his prediction that evidence of Atlantis would be found in 1968 as referring to the discovery of the Bimini Road. Believers describe the formation as a road, wall, or other structure, but the Bimini Road is of natural origin. And I would actually like to go and see that, because Bimini is actually not that far from Miami. You can get there on like a little day cruise or a quick plane ride. But now that I know it's in the Bermuda Triangle, like, I don't know that I want to go over there on an airplane or by boat.
Yeah, we're actually doing a photo shoot there soon.
Oh, in Bimini?
I won't be there, but
I was about to say, can I come along? I could just make that quick trip over.
Yeah, pop over to Miami and then stay for a while.
There you go. So some think that a parallel universe exists in the Bermuda Triangle region, causing a time-space warp that sucks objects around it into a parallel universe. Others attribute the events to UFOs. Charles Berlitz, author of various books on anomalous phenomena, lists several theories attributing the losses in the triangle to anomalous or unexplained forces. So more environmental considerations are obviously used to explain the disappearances, because the majority of Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes pass through the Bermuda Triangle. And in the days prior to improved weather forecasting, these dangerous storms claimed many ships. Now, I have always said that I would be really scared to live in Bermuda, because I feel like every hurricane that comes through the Atlantic goes straight for Bermuda. So I always wonder why people choose to live there. I mean, I know it's a lovely area, but it seems like they always get hammered. So I could see where, you know, in the olden days that people would not be able to know that a hurricane was coming and get sucked out, you know, by that. But I like to believe more in these supernatural forces behind it. Also, the Gulf Stream can cause rapid and somewhat violent changes in weather, obviously. So additionally, the large number of islands in the Caribbean Sea creates many areas of shallow water that can be treacherous to ship navigation. And then also human error is also blamed for these disappearances. And there is some evidence to suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is a place where a magnetic compass sometimes points towards the true north as opposed to magnetic north. And I find that this is interesting that they are talking about magnetic fields, because we just did that story on Barney and Betty Hill where they had the magnetic forces that were, you know, messing with their compasses after they were abducted by the extraterrestrials. And so I kind of wonder, like, how, if these magnetic forces are actually being, you know, messed around with by extraterrestrials. But what are compass variations? Compass problems are one of the most cited phrases in many triangle incidents. While some have theorized that unusual local magnetic anomalies may exist in the area, such anomalies have not been found. Compasses have a natural magnetic variation in relation to the magnetic poles, a fact which navigators have known for centuries. Magnetic compass north and geographic true north are exactly the same, only for a small number of places. For example, As of 2000, in the United States, only those places on the line running from Wisconsin to the Gulf of Mexico. But the public may not as being informed and think that there is something mysterious about a compass changing across an area as large as a triangle, which it naturally will. So there are different reports of unexplained occurrences in the region that date back to the mid-19th century. Some ships were discovered completely abandoned for no apparent reason. Others transmitted no distress signals and were never seen or heard from again. Aircraft have been reported and then vanished, and rescue missions are said to have vanished when flying in the area. However, wreckage has not been found, and some of the theories advanced to explain the repeated mysteries have been fanciful. So let's talk about a few air, land, and sea mysteries. So an air mystery in July 10th of 1945, Thomas Arthur Garner, along with 11 other crew members, was lost at sea in a U.S. Navy PBM-3S patrol seaplane in the Bermuda Triangle. They left the Naval Air Station Banana River, Florida at 7:07 p.m. on July 9th, 1945 for a radar training flight to Great Exuma, Bahamas. Exuma is where they have those little pigs that swim around. Have you ever seen
What?
those? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they're like pigs that swim in the water and they're so cute. And
What?
yeah, that's an Exuma. Their last radio position report was sent at 1:16 a.m., July 10th, 1945, with a latitude longitude of 25.22 north, 77.34 west near Providence Island, after which they were never heard from again. An extensive 10-day surface and air search included a carrier sweep, found nothing. So they totally just disappeared.
Hmm.
Then on December 5th of 1945, Flight 19 lost 5 TBF Avengers, lost with 14 airmen, and the same day, PBM Mariner BU 59225 lost with 13 airmen while searching for Flight 19. So on December 5th, 2 planes disappeared, the one that actually disappeared and the one that went to try to find them. So that's pretty scary.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah. And in 1948, on December 28th, a Douglas DC-3 NC16002 lost 3 crew and 36 passengers en route from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Miami, Florida. In 2017, in February 23rd, so this is kind of recent, the Turkish Airlines flight TK-183, it's an Airbus, not a Boeing, was forced to change its direction from Havana, Cuba to Washington Dulles Airport after some mechanical and electrical problems occurred over the triangle. And in May 15th of 2017, a private MU-2B aircraft was at 24,000 feet when it vanished from radar and radio contact with air traffic controllers in Miami. The plane wreckage was found later, but not the passenger. So,
Wow.
very interesting. So incidents at sea are there's a little more detail on these. So the first documented one that I could find was in 1800. The USS Pickering was on course from Guadalupe to Delaware, and it was lost with 91 people on board. They think that it may have been lost in a gale wind. In 1881, according to legend, a sailing ship, the Ellen Austin, found a derelict vessel and placed a crew to sail the vessel to port. So they found this vessel that was basically floating around and created a sail to get it to the nearest port. 2 versions of what happened to the vessel are: the vessel was either lost in a storm or was found again without a crew. Lawrence David Couch, author of The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved, found no mention in 1880 or 1881 newspapers of the alleged incident. He did trace the legend to a book by Rupert Gould, The Stargazer Talks, that was published in 1943. The Ellen Austen did exist. A check from Lloyd's of London records proved the existence of Meta, built in 1854 and that in 1880. Meta was renamed the Ellen Austen. There are no casualty listings for this vessel or any vessel at that time. That would suggest that a large number of missing men were placed on board the derelict that later disappeared, although one website includes the alleged derelict vessel incident. It does find that Rupert Gold talked about the legend on radio in the 1930s. Likewise, the website traces of the derelict story to a June 1906 newspaper story, which claims the derelict ship incident took place in 1891. However, the 1906 story does not give a reference of where the story came from. So that's kind of weird because there are different, versions of this. And it's like, did this actually happen? Was there a derelict vessel? Why were there no people on board? Because obviously there would be people on board, but they couldn't find anybody. So anyway, that one is a little bit shady. Another one from December 22nd of 1967. A hotel owner and yachtsman from Miami, his name was Dan Burak, set out on his cabin cruiser Witchcraft, with a priest named Patrick Horgan. The ship was taken 1 mile off the Miami coastline so that Burak and Horgan could view the Christmas lights visible from the shore. That night, Burak radioed a distress call to the Coast Guard, informing them that the boat's propeller had struck something underwater and that the vessel would need to be towed in. The Coast Guard requested that he send up a flare in roughly 20 minutes so that the boat could be easily located. The official who received the call reportedly later noted that Burak didn't seem to be too concerned about his boat, the Witchcraft, because he had fitted it with a special flotation device in its hull. And when they arrived at the location from where he called in, he, Horgan, and the Witchcraft were nowhere to be found. Over the following days, a search was conducted over hundreds of square miles of ocean, but the boat and its passengers were never found.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he radios in, doesn't seem to be too concerned. They say throw up a flare, and within 20 minutes or so, when they went out to find them, the boat was just gone and the passengers. And that happened in 1967. So you would think that they would have some sort of sonar equipment by that point where they could have tried to find the boat, if it had sunk, or how far could it have really gone in that amount of time.
Right, in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And even did you say how large the boat was?
It was a cabin cruiser, so I can't imagine it was more than probably a 60-foot boat or something like that, which can look very small in an ocean, considering. But
how long does it take for a boat to sink? I'm sure that there are a lot of factors that weigh into that.
Yeah.
Right? But 20 minutes, I mean,
yeah.
Would it be completely visibility gone by that point? Or I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. And the fact that they weren't able to find any by sonar or anything like that, it, sinking to the bottom, or, when they knew what their coordinates were, because he actually radioed in and they were on their way to actually find them. And then in 2015, in late July, two 14-year-old boys, Austin Stephanos and Perry Cohen, went on a fishing trip in their 19-foot boat. Despite the 15,000 square nautical mile wide search from the Coast Guard, the pair's boat was found a year later off the coast of Bermuda, but the boys were never seen again.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of like, what happened to them? Were they taken by extraterrestrials or something? Because if they found the boat, why wouldn't they have found the boat with the bodies in there? And this happened more so in the coast of Bermuda. And there was one listed on land in August of 1969 at the Great Isaac Lighthouse in Bimini, Bahamas, which is where the lost continent of Atlantis is said to be. During a hurricane, 2 keepers disappeared from the lighthouse and were never found again. Yeah. So kind of short and sweet. Like I said, that there are tons of different stories that kind of encompass the Bermuda Triangle, but those are a few stories. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Bermuda Triangle. Have you ever really given it any thought?
I have, but I think what I was thinking about during this is because you just covered a UFO story in your last episode, and then in my last episode, I touched on aliens briefly. But one of those things I touched on was that some people believe that there are alien colonies under the ocean, like deep under the ocean, because there are parts of the ocean that we haven't explored yet.
Right.
And so there's some people that believe that there are colonies under the ocean. So, I mean, that's sort of interesting, right? Like maybe those abductions or whatever are happening from below.
Maybe they have something to do with the lost continent of Atlantis. Really they've taken it over.
Maybe it was always them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I guess I've only heard of like Bermuda Triangle stories as sort of like punchlines or like little anecdotes, but I never really knew any actual stories.
Yeah, I never knew any actual stories. And also, I didn't really have a good knowledge of where it was located. Like, I thought it was further out in the Atlantic. I didn't know that Florida and the Greater Antilles and then Bermuda was kind of like that triangle, which makes me nervous flying out of Florida because it seems like you could easily hit the Bermuda Triangle just like on the way to the Bahamas,
Yeah.
What's really interesting though too is I know that they have, and it's not, I don't think, part of the Bermuda Triangle, but they have said that there is an area when flights are flying from Europe to like South America, where there's an area where there have been a couple of plane crashes and stuff like that, where the weather like all of a sudden gets really bad. And it's almost like, is this a second type of Bermuda Triangle? And my father actually used to travel to South America quite often and said that some of the worst flights that he had encountered was flying over those areas when he was traveling back and forth from South America, like times where, when you travel a lot, and I'm talking like he's traveled like 1,000,000 miles on American Airlines, is like one of those 1,000,000 milers. And you kind of build up a tolerance, I think, to a lot of air. You're not as scared of turbulence and that sort of thing. But he said that there have been a couple of times that he'd been really, really scared, flying in that area. And I think that I want to say that there was an Air France plane or something like that crashed unexplained, like probably within the past 10 years in that specific area. But it's interesting that there are still to this day, people going out in boats or, I get small planes a little bit more, because I think that they can easily disappear. I'm scared shitless of getting on a small plane. So I could see where those would be more human error or technical issues. But the larger ships and those sorts of things are the ones that really kind of pique my interest on like what really happened, in this Bermuda Triangle area.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. I'm just thinking like, and we'll talk about this more on the Talk of Shame, but I'm getting ready to go to Hawaii, so I keep thinking about, I always do that. I fly a lot within the contiguous states. I don't fly that often over large bodies of water.
Yeah.
So I don't think much about flying. To your point, like I've built up, I'm not bothered by most turbulence. But every time I do fly over the ocean, I always, like, my mind goes to a dark place,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. Especially because when you go somewhere like Hawaii, which I know you went, was it last year or the year
2
before?
years.
Yeah, yeah. It almost seems like you're almost immediately, like before you know it, you're like on ocean and it's that way. And you know it's going to be that way for the next like 5 hours.
Yeah. I don't know if other people do this, but you can forget how far away it actually is because it's it's a state.
Right.
So it's not that I ever thought that it was close to California, but you do forget, or at least I do, and until you look at a map, it's in the middle of the ocean. Like there's nothing there.
Mm,
It's sort of crazy and
yeah,
a little scary to
yeah,
think about that.
yeah, yeah.
You and I right now are like yin and yang. Have you noticed this? You are
How's,
like your background, because it's darker there. Your background is dark. You're wearing your black bathing suit, and then I have a white robe on, and it's really bright behind me. And I feel like you are Elvira, and I'm Dolly Parton right now.
Oh, I love Elvira.
Two sides to the same coin.
Yes, yes. But yeah, that's the story of what is the Bermuda Triangle and where it is.
That was
So,
fun.
yeah,
Good one.
I don't know that I would want to take a cruise to Bermuda from
Mm-mm.
anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would be too wigged out, just knowing about the triangle and all that kind of stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
listeners, let us know if you've ever been to Bermuda, if you have the balls to go there.
If
Bye.
you've disappeared or if you've been abducted, right in.
Yes, we need to know. Right into the hello at theforbiddenpod.com.
Say hello from the other side if you're there.
Yes, yes. We want to know your abduction stories. I feel like, speaking of abductions stories, I feel like I had either a very active dream or that I was maybe abducted or went into another realm the other night because I was having like some pretty serious like dreams. And when I woke up yesterday morning, I had like scratches like on the side of my body, and I had a scratch on my leg, and I have no idea where they came from, you know?
Probably from your bidet. You keep falling into it.
That's true. That's true. But I was like, was I actually taken somewhere during my dream and then brought back, at some because they say that, sometimes dreams are kind of like time travel and those sorts of things, very unexplained, which would fit in nicely here. But I just found it very strange. And I have like my fingernails aren't very long right now. I had recently just like clipped them. So, and I haven't gotten, sometimes I'll wrestle with my dogs and they'll accidentally scratch me or something like that. But, and there was no gratuitous sex or anything that would have been involved. But it's very strange. So I wonder if I was taken the other night and
Maybe you
put
know
somewhere.
too much. You keep telling
Yes,
these stories and they're listening.
yes, yes. They're keeping a watch on me.
Aliens, if you're listening, please rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes, please. At theforbiddenpod.com on both Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Where else can people check us out?
On social media at The Forbidden Pod. Did you already say this? Instagram, Facebook?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And TikTok. Fun thing about that is I have hardly been posting anything because I've been swamped. And I'll talk about that in the next
Mm-hmm.
the next episode. But it's pretty quiet right now.
Yeah. But we just exited a holiday weekend last weekend, so I think everybody's just kind of recovering from their summer hangovers, and we'll get back into the swing of things. I've noticed that podcasts have been doing repeat episodes and stuff like that right now. So the fact that we are even doing new content is brilliant.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, we won't let you down. Well, Blake, thank you so much for listening to my story of the Bermuda Triangle.
Amanda, thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for the memories.
And listeners, as always, we
Thank
thank
you.
you.